Good evening. Tonight we have a special guest all the way from the UK, Amanda Englishby. She's a specialist coach, NLP practitioner. She's done phenomenal work. She's very dynamic, very enthusiastic and very driven. Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Fantastic, great to have you on board. So Amanda, people watching out there wondering what your background is, and I know you've done a lot of great work. You've worked with people of all ages, and you've worked in schools, and you've worked with people in business and sports and all sorts of stuff, really. But anyone out there, can you give them a bit of an idea and insight into your background, please?
Yeah, so I mean, my background is predominantly in teaching. Before the teaching, I worked with people with severe learning difficulties and challenging behaviour. And then I went into a teaching career. So my teaching career has been for 9 years. So that's why I did venture off into the coaching for teachers and pupils, because I could see the calling for that within the school setting, and it just felt natural for me within my teaching career to start coaching naturally. But sadly, within the school day, you don't have enough time to start coaching individuals, because you've got a whole class full of other pupils that obviously they deserve their learning at the same time as that student, and there was often things coming up that I wanted to help that individual with, but I didn't have the time and the setting to do that. So that kind of spurred me on, and also the changes in our economy and society these days, and I could see that in the pupils and the staff with regards to the changes in their behaviour. And that was obviously a product of what was going on outside of the school environment, and as a coach you could identify with that and connect with it, and that's where I wanted to do a bit more of the coaching. Yeah,
for sure. I can imagine that it would require a certain degree of resilience too, from a personal point of view. Coaching skills are great, NLP is great. I always think that they're an extension to one's personality, one set of skills, and I think that obviously being a teacher, well, at least most teachers I know, you are definitely very well organized and very meticulous and very professional. But I think also that resilience, really, when you work with challenging behavior, and as it helped you in coaching, Amanda, the resilience you've got and had to adapt to in that environment. Having worked with challenging behavior myself, I know how demanding it is. So and that's helped transfer that across to business and life in general.
Yeah, because I think like you've just stated there, Jimmy, that it does give you that resilience. And I did that for two years. I worked with severe challenging behaviour, and it was physical forms sometimes, you know, and as well as emotional, etc. But you have to build that resilience, which then I have been able to transfer into my teaching and into just general in life in itself. It really has set me in good stead, because in a lot of situations now, those skills come out, and I'm able to be calm. I'm able to still be able to assess the situation at a good level and not lose it with the emotions and the feelings. I'm in control of the emotions. I'm in control of the feelings within that given situation, and I'm still able to think and help that individual or that group of people at that time. So it helps to give me a clarity and focus, and it's helped to maintain that. So it's kind of it's been a training in itself.
Yeah, no, I find that fascinating. And I remember many years ago, Amanda, this is going back a long time now, and I started working in business again. I've been working with the most challenging behaviours in the country, the worst 3%, they said anyway. And these were like offenders, and they were really challenging people to work with. I did the work there, and I enjoyed doing it, and we got some good results. Then I went to work back in the business for a while, doing some training. And I remember my first day back into a business environment at the close of play, one of the managers said, "We're really sorry that people are a little bit like boisterous." And I thought, boisterous? I think I spent the last 7 years people breaking windows and spitting and kicking and fighting and trying to, you know, kill each other. And I'm in an environment where you have a few people answer a question without putting their hand up. And I thought, if this is boisterous, I'm going to take this any day of the week, really. But it is fascinating, isn't it? I think that I've always said that you can carry that resilience and those skills anywhere in life.
Oh, definitely. And I can connect with that, Jimmy, exactly what you're saying there, because because I've set off on my own business venture over the past year, nearly 2 years now, I've been setting this business up, and so within that, I've been still doing a bit of supply teaching, and going into different environments. Obviously, different schools offer different challenges, and I have had a couple of teachers that have said to me, you know, oh, I'm really sorry about the way that class has behaved, and I was like, it's actually okay. Like you say, when you've experienced in the past bigger scenarios, bigger, you know, forms of behavior, it sets you in very good stead, because to me, you know, I'm able to adapt and deal with any situation. And yeah, I like that. I like that I'm able to keep that calm and that balance within those situations, and be able to, most of the time, help with the resolve.
You know, definitely, and I can, you know, I'll definitely back up anyone out there watching this evening who watches the video. That's a very challenging environment to work in, and it's not for everybody, and many people have the right intentions going into that environment, yet they struggle. And it does certainly take a certain type of character, that's for sure. You've got to be very resilient, very strong mentally, that's for sure. NLP can help, very much so. It has a big impact on that environment. I certainly think that one's character is key. So what drew you into the world of coaching and NLP, Amanda? What was the driving force in you getting interested in the world of NLP and coaching?
Well, it was probably tapping into kind of what you was just saying there about that, about the perspective and others' perspectives within schools, and like I said earlier, about the changing environments that I was noticing. And it's just that I can connect with the NLP because of the external programming that forms our internal map, and respecting that each person is an individual, and they've all had an early programming from day dot. And the amount of times I have seen the miscommunication, the clashes, the between teacher and pupil, between pupil and pupil, between staff, between colleagues, hierarchy, and I was witnessing this, and I have looked at other and experienced different forms of therapy, CBT, and, you know, forms of meditation, all of the things, but NLP I could really connect with just because of that understanding and awareness that I've kind of always had. So it was something I could really connect with, because I thought, yes, this is exactly what I've always kind of prided myself on, which is looking into the background of that individual. Well, what caused that behavior? What caused that? You know, it's not just a question of, a lot of times people will say, you know, oh, I can't believe he's acted that way, or I can't believe that's happened, or he's done this. And it's like, well, let's just stop and let's just look back at why that has happened, what has resulted in that behavior, because obviously the behavior is the iceberg, is the tip of the iceberg, sorry, and it's what's underneath the symptoms, all the beliefs, the values that have formed that behavior. And there's something gone on there which hasn't connected with the other person or clashed, etc., which has caused that. I'm talking with regards to probably relationships there, but also, as we know, with NLP, it's not just about the relationships, it's about that individual and the limited beliefs that they form. And within a lot of my pupils and people that I've come across in life, like I said, I'm always interested in that person and their programming, what was in the background, why do they like this, why do they, you know, and teaching special needs quite a lot. I used to tap in a lot to their background to then build a rapport and connect with them, with the students. So like if I knew, say for instance, a particular student was highly religious, I'd make sure I knew what religion that was and how I can kind of tailor my lessons to involve that as well, and then connect on that level. And it just gives that person a little familiarity to then be comfortable within that environment to then move on. I've kind of gone off on a tangent there.
Honestly, it's tough, really, and you know, you're right, because I think the map of the world is integral, and I think that you walk in a room and we see people physically, we can see that, and we see everyone looks differently. We accept that mentally people are equally as different, but the danger is we assume that they think the same as us, really. And sometimes it's very easy to work with people as a collective rather than individualistically. And I think for those of you, by the way, who haven't done NLP before, it's neuro linguistic programming. I haven't found a satisfactory definition. All the years I've been doing it, but what I would say is a study of human excellence. And basically, if you're going to run a marathon, who would you learn from? Someone who's never run one before, someone who's run several, about eating, about diet, about how to pace yourself, so on and so forth. So it is the study of human excellence. And originally NLP was founded, and they'd modelled three therapists, Virginia Satir, Fritz Perls, and Milton Erickson. Of course, Milton Erickson, hypnotherapy, which I studied over many, many years myself. So it's a fascinating skill set to have, and it can really, really help, like you said, in more ways than one. And certainly in the teaching environment, for rapport, connecting to students, helping learning style, and it's really exhaustive in terms of how we can help students. And how have you found yourself? Is there anything specific that you found quite useful from the NLP perspective, helping the students? Amanda, anything specific that's worked for you well, or?
I think probably, I mean, with the pupils, it was more probably the tapping into their beliefs and their value system. So using that beliefs and value system to then integrate that into my planning to then make the lessons good for them and to help them have a familiarity with it to help them learn. So probably in that sense, individually, it came in, obviously to help coach people, but that would be after a lesson, short, and it would only be a short sense of time. That's kind of what spurred me on to make the big career leap and go, I need to be doing this on a full-time basis. I need to be helping individuals and having that quality time to sit with them and work through these techniques with them. So yes, with regards to the pupils, it was probably more, I mean, now that I coach more in schools, it's helping them deal with like anxieties, like exam stress, exam pressures. As we know, the environment that we're in at the moment, there is a lot of social anxiety, all this social media. They're coming into school, it's forming a whole competition element. The values and belief systems are all about, how they look, etc., and a lot of fear and confidence issues that are coming up and arising because of that. So yeah, it's probably with the pupils more about helping them deal with stress and anxiety within a school setting and any problems outside of the school setting which are affecting the learning. Helping them shed, because some of them maybe do lack confidence to speak up in a lesson or something. Well, that's something that I can help shed that limited belief and change it and give them the confidence to then actually pop the hand up and ask and maybe say, I didn't understand that. There was many times I remember in my school learning that there was times that I didn't have the confidence to pop up the hand and say, and probably if I'd have had that coaching and I would have been able to say, I didn't understand that, sir, could you explain that again in a different way? Then my learning could have been better. My education experience would have been better. So it's kind of helping them with things like that. And like I say, we can't be so narrow-minded to think that a lot of the issues are school-related. Often it is not. It's in the external world that's happening outside of that environment that is then forming whatever that results in. It might be anger management they need help with. It might be behavioural issues. But it's about...
I think it's a really good point that you made there. And you've alluded to a really, really good point where how much of... Now, I've been a teacher myself. I've gone in schools, colleges, so on and so forth, did some teaching. And one thing that I noticed, Amanda, was the amount of time we spent in the environment on behaviour management. When really, as a teacher, at least in my opinion, it's about the subject and helping students achieving that subject. And this is my opinion, by the way. I'm not saying that anyone shares this. I'm not saying that you share this. In my opinion, I think the school system needs an overhaul. I think teachers do a great job. People like yourself, you do a phenomenal job. You really do. You go in, you put up with a lot of behavioural issues, and you keep going. And I've been there myself. And I think that the system is outdated. It's very industrial revolution. It's 150-year-old. Even the actual subjects themselves, they don't really hold a great deal of relevance in modern society. I believe they should be teaching entrepreneur skills. I believe they should be teaching life skills. I believe we need more people like you who are dynamic, who are motivated in schools. And it's an old system that we need doing away with, because it's not cutting it anymore. Like you said, you made a great point. Life these days isn't what it used to be. We've got a lot more, I wouldn't say a lot more pressure in one sense, because we've had pressure in the past. It's a different sort of pressure. The pressure these days are more in our face, because you have got the social media, you have got the expectations, you have got all the things that we might not have had in the past, and you've got that social anxiety where people communicate a lot on social media. Now, you made a really good point there in terms of behavior management. Do you find as a teacher you're managing behavior more and more than in the past?
Yeah, definitely. And I think you made a good point there about stating that takes away from the actual content of the lesson. And I think that's a lot of teachers struggle and battle with that now, because they're kind of, well, I've gone into this teaching career to teach this subject. However, most of my time is managing the behavior, or, you know, it's spent obviously going away and writing about the behavior and then having to send a report through about that. And it just, like you say, that still, even writing about it is taking time away from planning a quality lesson that they want to then teach the next day. So I think that's where, if the schools could get in coaches that are external from the school setting to come in and help and to deal with that pupil outside of that lesson time, it would then help them flourish within the lessons. And maybe that coach, like I have done in the past, I've worked with the teachers and the pupils, you know, and you talk to the pupil, you found out that there's obviously there's obviously an issue which has caused this element of behavior or whatever. So then I have then gone to the teacher and said, right, how can we work with this? I know this is I'm working through this with the program. Could we change the seating, or, you know, could we think of maybe giving a different kind of activity in the lesson to help with that, or you know, or even integrating something in the lesson that he can connect with, and, you know, and it's not all geared towards that person, because I'm aware there's still another 25, 27, if not more sometimes in a class now, pupils sat there learning, but it's just about giving just that little bit of help and support for that person. Whether it's not doable for the teacher and the coach to speak, at least they're getting the coaching and the support they need outside of the lesson, and the emotional support that they need to then be in the learning environment and have the brain clear to then retain the information.
No, very much so. And I think that certainly in education, where one of the things we've got as a challenge these days, say 10, 15 years ago, when you were given a task to do and problem solving, you'd go about reading, go to the library, you'd research, you'd learn. These days, I call them the Google generation. I think that there's an explosion of labels. Now, I'm not for or against the labels. The labels are quite useful. People get support, like ADHD and so on and so forth. I'm not undermining. I know people have got attention. It used to be called AD before in the past. Now it's ADHD, attention disorder. But what I would say, if you're sort of consistently, if you need an answer and you're Googling it, you're not researching, then your mind's going to lose the ability to concentrate. And I really believe it's not easy, because technology's gone so fast, we've kind of been left behind. The education system's been left behind, because technology is meant to make our life easier, but now you've got a generation of young people who, they're instant gratification. They want it now. And I think really there's got to be methods and mechanisms, and people like yourself have got to be given the freedom to have more creative learning, more creative curriculum. You've got a lot of skills. You're a great coach. You've got many other skills too. You don't just do an LP coach. You do many other things as well. The drama, all that sort of stuff. Some great skills that you've got a great insight. And I think that not just pastoral roles that we see in schools and colleges, we need to have dynamic people like yourself going out there and encouraging young people to learn, to problem solve, be creative, use the right brain, because we use a lot of the left brain, logical sequence. And really the world we're in now, we're going to have to sort of think more right brain, we're more creative, more entrepreneurial. I'd bring in lessons like entrepreneurship. I'd bring in lessons like mindfulness, coaching. I'd talk about life in general, the trials and tribulations. We still, and you made a great point about values and beliefs, education system is still carrying the values and beliefs that we had many, many years ago. Socially things have changed. And
and people are more creative these days, you know, and they do like to try and learn in a more creative environment. And probably that's something I should have stated earlier when I mentioned my teaching, that I taught A-level dance, BTEC performing arts, I've taught special needs. So I am used to being very creative, and I think that again pulls into my coaching, my training, whatever I'm doing within the schools, because I'm able to adapt and think of another way of learning, you know, and it's not just, it can't just be as structured as, here's the criteria, you need to plan X, Y, and Z to hit that criteria. It's like, okay, well, the realistic view is, yes, we do have to hit that criteria because otherwise that pupil's not going to pass. However, how we get them there can be creative.
And also got benefit as well.
Look at what the pupils want. They do. They thrive in a creative environment using that other side of the brain. Don't get me wrong. Every lesson can't be all up, fun and dancing. You still obviously need to ground that with the theory basis, but it can happen. It can.
Yeah, no, for sure. And these days, you look young people. You got your YouTube millionaires and so on and so forth. I'm not saying that every young person is a YouTube millionaire. At least give them the opportunity to express themselves and create stuff and create videos and just keep up technology in that sense. And many years ago, I was working at a disadvantaged school, and they were really struggling with attainment retention in science. And I decided to change the whole dynamic. And I said, you know what? Let's take these young people to play snooker, and we'd work out geometry, physics, angles of the balls, and what to calculate, key skills, sliding the numbers across. And we had ups and downs, but attention went up, attainment went up, retention skyrocketed. They all came along. So it's about sort of being innovative. And when I first mentioned the principal, that's what I was going to do, she was like, what's your joke? And I said, well, just hear me out. These kids are being labeled with ADHD, so on and so forth. They're creative geniuses. We're too easy to say, you know what, they've got a label, write them off. And I see too much of that going on in one sense. And it's not the teacher's fault, because the teachers only know what they know, and they study teaching and they do their best they can. But I really believe that what they should do too is at least give teachers training in NLP, a basic course in autism, in Asperger's, in ADHD. So not to treat, because everyone's treated based on case formulation. We're not expecting teachers to be psychologists, but at least have an understanding, awareness of what to expect and how to manage situations. I've seen the poor managing not to fault the teacher, because they know what they know, but I've seen some very, very, very poor behavior management of young people who've got various autism, Asperger's, and they are creative. They're very bright. They're very, very bright. They just learn their own way. Yet you see, because the teacher, they don't have the awareness, or at least the school's not gone ahead and done some training in the area, so they know a little bit about it. They kind of treat the students all the same, and that's where I think you do really, really well. The map of the world stuff, it's creative, innovative, and that sort of stuff. It's phenomenal stuff, definitely.
Yeah. And also, like I did when I deliver workshops in the high schools now, I started delivering. Once I saw the calling for the need for the pupils, I also see via supply teaching as well the need for the support for the staff and the coaching for the staff, because a lot is actually happening. It's coming in more for schools, for the pupils, but what about the staff? A lot of the staff are off with no work-life balance, stress, anxiety. So I started filtering my coaching services out to schools across the Northwest for teachers as well as the pupils. But that then stemmed into a bit of inset training as well. And it was funny that you mentioned then about the educating teachers with NLP, because that was part of the last inset that I did. It was the training was in 3 sections. So it was how to deal with stress and anxiety, how to get a more work-life balance, and the final one was NLP, but with regards to understanding our relationships with pupils and other staff colleagues. And obviously to fit all that in the space of, I think it was about an hour and 50 minutes, wasn't enough. I didn't feel it was good, and they all had a great experience. However, at the end, a lot of the comments were, "Would love to hear more about this, about the NLP, because we can really connect with that with our pupils." And it really does help with staff as a whole for that understanding of other people, just that, you know, and learning not to take things on a personal level, and to understand that actually that might just be their programming, and let's just deal with it and work with it, and how can we?
For sure. No, that's a really good point. And I think that certainly in my experience, when I've gone and sort of taught NLP and some CBT to staff and so on and so forth, where for me, it's about the teacher getting their game head on. We all have bad days. I have days where I get up in the morning and think, oh, the world. Yet you've got to put your game head on. I've seen teachers literally write themselves off. They stroll in and it's like, well, how are we going to ever motivate these students? I'm like, well, if you're going to go in with that attitude, what chance has the student got? Now, I always say to coaches, you've got to go there first. You want the client to be confident, you've got to go there first. You've got to be motivated. The teachers certainly, at least in my opinion, they've got to be motivated. They've got to be dynamic. And we all have off days. I'm not Pollyanna. The grass isn't always green. Yeah, one thing we've got to be is have the ability to go in there. And that's not easy to do that. Obviously, life gets in the way. People have personal lives. They've got lives. And that's why I think it's really important that people like yourselves helping teachers who they've got lives outside work as well. Things go on and one affects the other. But to have the ability to, in the morning, you go, you know what, this lesson I'm going to go out there and just smash it. I'm going to give this the class everything I've got, and we'll sort of take it from there. And that's the key for me.
It's having that drive and that enthusiasm when you go in, because they connect with that and they can see it. And
when it comes from here, it comes from within.
So in that body language and you know the way you present yourself. I've seen it happen, and I have seen people, teachers, walk in, and their whole body language says, "I don't want to be here. I'm stressed, and I just want to get out of this lesson." So with that, and they want to. They're like, well, we don't want to be here either, then, But as soon as you get somebody vibrant coming in, and go, right, go on, class. What we're doing today? What we got? We're gonna try something a bit different. Let's go a bit dynamic then here, and gear them up again. And then straight away they're like, oh, okay, yeah, okay, where are we going? This is a bit new, a bit different. Yeah,
no, for sure. No, you're right. And I think that, I think the thing is too, there are some great staff out there. I'm not undermining.
Oh, fantastic. I've seen it, like you say, the other side of it. I've seen the staff that do that on a daily basis, and I pride them. I think, gosh, how do you do that? And they do, because they love it.
Anyone can burn out, man. Anyone can. I think even the best can burn out. And I think if you haven't got that sort of support, and I think the teachers need support. They need people like yourself. They need people to be able to bounce ideas and just freshen their mind. To have some sort of supervision to talk about stuff and just offload, because we should all be there for each other, really. Otherwise, it's very easy to burn out. Now, I want to sort of go and just mention your story. You've had an interesting story, a fascinating story. You've gone through your trials and tribulations, so to speak, in my words, not yours, but it's a fascinating story, Amanda. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and how you sort of managed to get yourself out of certain situations where you've experienced your own adversity, so to pull it back? Because people might see you, and when I see you and you're vibrant, you're optimistic. From the outside looking in, people think, Amanda, everything's perfect in her world, always has been. But tell us a little bit about you, if you don't mind, to share your own story.
Fine. I mean, I often do get that that perception of people, which is nice, and it's it's a compliment in itself to know that I still come across as positive, and I still try and see the best qualities in life, and it's good that people do still see that. But yes, they can also think, oh, well, what does she know? She's had a perfect life. She's happy. She's got this. She's got that. And actually, in reality, they don't know like we've been discussing, the backstory, which is what I will discuss a bit now. But it's what helps me with not only my coaching within the schools, but also within the one-to-one sessions that I give to private clients outside of a school setting, because that's something that I do offer, and I'm getting out there even more so at the moment. But it's because I can connect with people on many levels. They look at me at the age of 36. I know I look 21, but they look at me at 36, and they think, well, what can she have gone through within that lifetime? In childhood, there was different forms of abuse. I'm quite open to to state that now. It's taken a lot of years to be able to do that, and to come to this point now where I'm strong, resilient, and I'm able to talk about it without that emotional connection, without that upset. But yes, there was abuse from a very young age. There was later on throughout that, there was violence. I then, as the years progressed, I then went through an early menopause, unbeknown to me. I was trying to study at the time, studying a university degree, wondering why I was getting up early doors in the morning and going for a run at 6 in the morning, staying up till such and such a night, losing a lot of my hair. My emotions were all over. I was very erratic, at the same time as trying to gain my degree. That then formed an eating disorder called EDNOS, which is eating disorder not other specified. So I wasn't within the bracket of anorexia. I wasn't in the bracket of bulimia. With EDNOS, you can be a mixture of both. It can be, but for me, it was an element of control in the food. And that was the only thing at that time when everything was out of balance that I felt, and I didn't know I was going through this menopause, that I could control. So yes, then I formed an eating disorder that lasted for 13 years. I'm recovered from that, happily recovered, and still encompassing my curves even more so now. So obviously, yes, I went through the early menopause. That then caused a relationship breakdown, because that was something that was great. It was only when I'd gone through the IVF that it actually came up, because of this new test that they came up with at the time, an AMH test. And I hadn't been producing as a lady should each month for 8 years. But all these investigations haven't showed that. This final test said, actually, you've gone through an early menopause. And I still, at that time, I still remember sat in the appointment going, okay. Not really knowing, because at the age of, what was I then, 29? I didn't really know the ins and outs of the menopause. I thought maybe it was early menopause and I'd still have some eggs there or something, you know. And he said, and he basically, the professor there said that, yeah, so that means that you've kind of got a couple maybe little eggs. And I was like, okay, can we use them? No, not really, because they're diminished. Like, this test said that the egg quality that I had was like 0 point something, when usually it was 5 and above. It was in a test called the AMH test. So that was a shock in itself. Obviously, that was a lot for myself and my partner to deal with at the time. We then chose to do egg donation, and then my partner changed his mind after that had been arranged for a year. And so then, yeah, the marriage was cancelled, etc., and off she went. So positive Amanda then thought, right, what can I do now? No mortgage, no partner, can't have children, no marriage now. Okay, I'm going to reassess and I'm going to get these shoulders back. I'm going to build. Obviously, it's going to, within this, I had a lot of crying and my own therapy and this is where I started to build my own tools and techniques, which helped me. But then I went away to Australia, your hometown. And I volunteered for 6 months in Brisbane. I then travelled alone for nearly 6 months, Australia, New Zealand and Bali. And I made sure that I had a positive, and I started to change things into positive, and I started to learn different techniques that would help me along the way. I went to, remember the Vipassana meditation centre in New Zealand. I did a 10-day silent retreat and learned how a form of meditation, and you need that, you know, and that helped me clear a lot. It helped me give clarity of mind. So, and within this journey, I managed to pick things up along the way, and yeah, that's probably the short version. I don't often do the short version, but that's as short as I can keep it without mentioning my gallbladder removed. I have Raynaud's disease, and many ailments that probably an 80-odd-year-old woman should have. But as we said, it builds the character I am now, and all that has led me to now hopefully be able to use those experiences to help others, because I can connect with them. And I think that's what you need at the times when I was going through those experiences. I kind of wish that there was somebody that could help, that I could connect with, that could say, hey, yeah, you can, you know, I get that. And there is a positive way to look at that. There were so many times I remember with the early menopause, you know, and And I thought, well, what can I do? You know, and I started looking on the internet, as they say, the internet world these days, and I got help for early menopause. You know, is there a support or something? However, most of the time, it was all ladies that wanted to get pregnant still, and there was grasping at different ways of trying to. And I thought, well, this isn't me. It was just getting me more frustrated and negative about the situation. I thought, and I need to look at this in a positive way, and there wasn't. So I had to choose to, because I knew that that was the way for me to cope with it, you know. And so I started to really see it as a blessing for other people, and, you know, celebrating that, because I understand how important it is to a woman to want for a child. You know, we're programmed from day dot to push a pram and rock a baby, and, you know, so you just kind of think, well, it's a given. When that's taken away without your choice, you're like, well, now what? You know, so it's how we choose to look at that. And that's where I started to make big changes in my life. I think when I started to think, well, actually, I have a choice about how, am I going to let this define me and go back? Or am I going to go, okay, this is me. How can I encompass that and move forward? And kind of, I think that's what I do in my coaching then now, because I look at the background as we need to. And then I go, right, okay, well, this makes total sense as to why this has happened, or resulted in this behavior, or, you know, this event. However, where do you want to be, and how can I help get you there? And it's about that moving forward with positive intentions. And, you know, like you, Jimmy, I'm a realist. So it's not going to be life. I'm not going to tell anybody who I see for coaching, whether that be at a personal level, whether it be a teacher, whether it be a pupil. I'm never going to say your life's going to be rosy and you'll skip down the road with bubbles and candy floss and everything's skippy do, because it's not. And sadly it isn't. But I can give them hope for future. Life can be good. It's just about putting all those tools in your kit bag, kind of, and trudging down on your journey, but having those tools in there to cope with it, and to think, actually, yeah, this has flung my way, but it's okay, because I'm strong enough to deal with this, and I've got this tool, and I'm going to use that, and, you know, and then move forward.
And even to have someone to talk to, I think that's a useful thing, to initiate some sort of dialogue. And yourself, Amanda, did you have anyone that you could turn to when you went through, like you said, there's some, you know, big blows, in the sense that we have an idea of where we want to go in life, and things will be going well and according to plan, and the rug literally gets swept under the feet, and you bounced back pretty well. You bounced back phenomenally well. And I'm sure people see you and see you teach, and every time I've seen you, you're very vibrant, you're very lovely, and I think Amanda, all is well in her world, and you make it that way. You do. You know, you choose. And we all have moments. I have moments myself where I become philosophical, and it's the only way to get through, and the things that happen in life, and the injustices, and you sometimes wonder why certain people and not others, really, to a certain degree. Not that I wish bad in anybody, but you see the serial killers of this world, that sort of stuff, really, and you see someone who's got a good heart and doing all the best they can, and they get all these things being thrown at them. But did you have anyone yourself to speak to when you're going through the stuff? Did you have anyone that you could turn to professionally? Was that possible? Was the outlet there for you? Or
professionally, not really, to be honest, just because I did eventually get some help via the NHS and CBT, but that took a long time, because obviously it's not, you know, and I'm not here to say anything bad about the NHS, because they've done some fantastic work, and as we know, but the waiting at that time when I needed it, I think it was close to 12 to 16 months.
Wow.
And I was like, well, but I need it now. You know, it's like, oh, well, you're on a waiting list. And it was so frustrating, because I didn't really have anybody to go to help me with that. It was only later on that I found a very good hypnotherapist, a gentleman called Chris Gelder, that he really helped. It wasn't just the hypnotherapy, he did other forms of therapy. He's also studied NLP, and so he used a range of techniques and tools to help me through those times. So probably that, alongside, eventually I did get the NHS therapy towards the end of when I was kind of getting there. But, you know, it all helped. And like I said, gave me the tools and also that impetus maybe to start thinking, actually, how can I help people more with this then? Because I knew that on my journey it wasn't there, you know, at the get-go. So, and that's when you need it, and that early interim before it manifests in a you know, a worse form.
For sure. It's almost like a university of life really as well. And I think that some of the best therapists, coaches and so on and so forth have gone through things themselves, and they can relate to people. That's not to say that we subjectively do our experiences, and each case is based on formulation. Yet in saying that, I think that the empathy certainly is a big thing. And I've been a therapist for many years, and I've seen many therapists of all sorts of abilities and so on and so forth. And some of the best therapists I've seen aren't even necessarily very well qualified in the eyes of academia. They just have a good life experience, you know. And I've seen some of the most qualified people out there who couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag because, you know, basically live their life with a silver spoon. And, you know, it's 6.5 to 1. All I'm saying is I really think that sometimes what you've done really well, from what I can see, is your experiences have galvanized you, and certainly, and I think the experiences you've been through, you've managed to get to the other side, but it's galvanized as a person, but it's also given you the impetus to go out there and want to help people too. And you think that's the case? You think that all the things that you've been through has developed the character you are today, and do you transfer not just the skills you've learned, because the skills you learn, they're skills, they're practical, they're processes, but also the life experience you can't. And I'm a big believer in experience. You can't teach experience. You think that life experiences have helped you become a coach too?
Definitely. Definitely, because like you say, people, I can empathize and relate to people, and I can connect with people on many levels now and about different experiences. And yeah, they might not be the exactly same experience, but I can say, well, you know, there's something similar, and I can connect with that, and we can have a conversation, which then brings that in. And you know, I think we all like familiarity. We all need to, we need to see somebody who has struggled, maybe, who has built up their own resilience, and that then in itself gives you hope. Well, how did you do it then? You know, so yeah, it's definitely helped me to empathize and connect with a range of different clients and people throughout life.
For sure, because if you hear the story, and the story that you have is very powerful, there's someone else out there who is struggling, or they can't have children, or at the menopause, or whatever happens, and to hear someone like yourself who's upbeat and positive and done a good life for themselves and carried on going, it's inspirational in itself, really. Not to say that we're there to compare ourselves, but at least you know that there is light in the tunnel, because a lot of people, I think, get stuck in situations where life is short, you know, and it soon passes by, and you just got to keep going and keep believing, and keep sometimes even taking it day by day, and even breaking it down and getting up in the morning saying, okay, let me take it day by day, and let me see what I can do, and each day's a fresh start. And life really, it probably doesn't go the way anyone wants it to go or expects it to go, but you've got to make hay while the sun shines. And I think that you've got to also do what you do really well, and you've got to look at the positives and what you have got rather than what you haven't got. And I would encourage people out there who are struggling to open up and communicate, because I believe that in any trauma, the earlier you talk about it, the better chance you've got of recovering and improving your life. The longer you leave it, the more it festers. But I think it's good to have people to talk to, for sure, you know, definitely. Now, what we're going to do is we're sort of drawn to a close, but I want, you know, you specialize in many areas. Amanda, you're very talented, you're dynamic, you've got a lot of ability. You've done a lot in schools and with teachers and students. You've gone to the business world and life in general.
Yeah, I probably haven't said actually about the businesses.
Yeah.
But I am also channeling out into businesses now to help them as a whole. A bit like we was talking about earlier with regards to the NLP for understanding your work colleagues, moving forward, reaching goals, aspirations, and, you know, for progressing, for getting that business where it wants to be. So I am also doing that at the moment as well.
That's really good to do that. And I think on top of that, even in the business world, people are people, and you know, you've got performance goals, you've got key performance indicators, so on and so forth. But also there's a human element. I believe in business. One of the ways I approached the business world all those years ago was quite unique, where I went to businesses and I used the key performance indicators and goals and so on and so forth. But I thought, you know what, we've got to build people's enthusiasm, their motivation, their focus, their passion. And if you can do that and get to that high level, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being high, for example, 8 or 9, every day you go in enthusiastic and passionate and motivated, it'll look after itself, really. And I think that's someone like yourself going in there who's infectious and motivated, and also you've got a story there as well. I'm sure there's people out there, even in business world, who, even if, I'm not saying you're gonna treat them or from a therapeutic point of view, but even just talk and offload, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Give them motivation, give them positivity, give them this is how we do, what we're looking towards. Why did you join this company? Why? What did you believe in the company? Well, let's drive that forward, you know, and how can we do that as a team, and understanding each other as we do it, and actually enjoying our jobs again as we move forward. People forget that, don't they? They get so consumed in the actual job that they forget, and the label, that they forget the enjoyment part of it. Why did they initially come into that job? Why?
For sure. And the danger is we don't know how much we. Exactly. And it's one of the situations where we don't know how much we miss something until it's gone. And I've seen many people in business, you know, they go in there like, you know, we're you know, a face on and down and not see the privilege in having a job, whatever that job is, and rolling the sleeves up. And, you know, I think it's really important. And I had a career in sport, Amanda, as you know, but before I got to a high level of sport, I worked in factories as 14, 15-year-old to make ends meet, and people don't know the half of it. They think that it was always easy, and I used to fund my own education and learn and see seminars and learn from people. And I would encourage people to learn, and certainly learning is education is power. The more you educate yourself, the more you learn, not just academia, also just learning in general, reading books, listening to stories, experiences, and associating with people who are like-minded. It goes a long way to moving forward and being the best you can be. We're sort of drawing towards the end now. It's gone really, really quick.
I know it has, hasn't it?
Really, really fast. Very much so. And anyone out there who wants to get in touch on any of the issues we've talked about tonight, is there any way they can get in touch? Is there any best way, Amanda, they can get in touch with you if they're interested in bringing you in? Or
yeah, they could contact me on, there's my email address, which is amanda@blissfulhealings.com. There's also my website, which is blissfulhealings.com. And that's probably the best way to contact me. Either via email directly would probably be the best protocol, and then if they wanted to have a look on the website, they can. But the website is more to do with the other aspects of my healing as well. So I would probably best just to email me on amanda@blissfulhealings.com.
Fantastic. No, thank you for providing that. And anyone out there watching, I would certainly recommend, if you want to improve your life, or certainly in the versatile areas you work in students and teachers, and you've got so much experience, and outside that environment and businesses and just life in general, stress management, relaxation, you know, really inspirational story. And it's been very kind of you, Amanda, to share your story out there. It takes a lot of courage and guts to do that. And certainly to come out in the open and share what you've been through. And anyone out there listening, I'm sure that they'll take whatever meaning they need out of that, and certainly to get in touch. So I want to really thank you for this evening or this afternoon or wherever you are in the world out there watching. Thanks again, Amanda, and all the best. Have a fantastic week. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.